My attempted suicide story. Before attempting suicide, I fixated on it for I don't know, maybe a couple months. At least 1 month. Definitely not like anything I had done before. I attempted suicide once. It was a weird 20 minutes or so. A fucked up day truly. But I was in a room at my mom's best friend's house because we were staying the night there, so the drive the next day to my soon-to-be rehab center wouldn't be so long. I was in a room pacing back and forth, panicking about my life overall. The future, the past, the present, it all just felt like a fucking death sentence. I remember thinking to myself, as soon as they leave for their walk to the store, I'll take my pills, and I'll have no one to run to out of fear for my life. It just suffer alone in the bathroom, and by the time they got back I'd be dead. But they never ended up leaving for their walk. They just lingered, and it felt like they were taunting me. Like they knew I was going to kill myself, so they had to stay. It angered me. I kept crying and eventually went to the bathroom. I locked the door and just sat on the floor crying. I then took about 52-56 sleeping pills, serotonin, that were 100 milligrams. I took them all while I was crying on the bathroom floor the day before I was going to be forced into a rehab center. I knew it'd be miserable. I had to go, otherwise I'd be sleeping on the streets. I shoved them down my mouth and washed them down with water. I was crying about how my life had fallen completely apart. The only thing going through my head was, if I kill myself I might go to hell. I was raised Christian and believed for years that I was a faithful Christian. I was thinking, how could my life fuck me over this hard? How could God punish me this harshly even after doing my absolute best to be happy and successful? How could I feel this fucking miserable and tortured? How could I feel this powerless and abused? How could a world that loves me just rape me, scream at me, hit me, betray me and trap me? If it's worth anything at all, if God is real, then he will probably send me to hell for not believing in a future with him. He will send me to hell for killing myself because I should have had more faith. I shouldn't have been so prideful. I shouldn't have doubted his plan. I should have seen the good the world has to offer, etc. Why wouldn't he send me to hell? So in my mind I figured, if I take these pills and immediately tell my mom about it, then maybe during the time that she rushes me to the hospital — keep in mind this was at the peak of COVID, and the hospitals were packed and dangerously busy, and by the time the doctors finally get to me, you'll probably have OD, but God wouldn't consider it suicide because technically I tried to save myself by telling my mom. So I walk out of the bathroom, tell my mom I took 56 some pills, and her friend jumped in the car and rushed me to the hospital. In the car, all I could feel was worry about if God was going to send me to hell, and also relief that I might finally fucking die and never have to be here again. We get to the hospital and my mom has to leave me alone because the hospital wasn't accepting visitors because of COVID. So I'm sitting in a wheelchair outside because the hospital was packed, silently panicking because I began to worry about if it have a horrible seizure or if it end up brain dead and alive. All of these awful possible outcomes start fucking with my head all while my eyes start to get heavy. It was about 30 minutes after I had taken the pills. My heart is pounding, my mind is racing, and I keep nodding out or trying to keep myself awake, and all of the nurses and doctors were frantically working with all of the COVID patients. I remember thinking, fuck, this was a bad time to do this because people are on the brink of death, and I'm just here not fully committing to this fucking suicide, and basically just awaiting help. I was about to die. I could feel my body being taken over by the pills, and I could feel my soul screaming for help while hoping for peace after it all. I begin to worry because I was unsure of how my body would react to the pills, so I start asking the nurses when they will be able to help me, and they just kept saying soon. After about 15 minutes they finally take me inside the hospital, and they tried to get me to walk somewhere, but I could barely walk because of the pills, and my balance was really off, so they sat me on a bed in one of the main hallways. And I just laid there wondering what was going to happen to me for about 20 minutes. By then I was surprised the pills hadn't completely knocked me out yet. Then I was taken into another room, then one more room where I was lying on a bed. My eyes couldn't stay open anymore, and it was like I was just simply falling asleep, but the doctors and nurses around me were rushing as if they knew the pills were going to actually kill me, and I remember just letting myself go. I just let it all leave me. The worry, the pain, the questions. I just let it all slip away and I shut my eyes. The next thing I remember is waking up and seeing the nurses around me asking me if I could remember where I was and if I could remember the day, but none of the answers came to me. I just sat up in the bed trying to remember where I was and what day it was, and I remember panicking because I couldn't remember, and I was wondering if the pills had damaged my brain, and if it ever remember anything. Eventually, the answers slowly came except for one. I couldn't remember what day it was. The doctor just gave me more charcoal stuff to drink, and eventually I came to my conscience. Then they moved me to another room, let me sleep. And when I woke up they asked if I thought I could leave the hospital or if I should be on suicide watch, and I remember thinking what a fucking odd question to have to answer to, and I just told them yeah, I was fine, and they released me. The next day, that was at one point just a moment away from a final death. The end. This was when I was 22 and I'm now 25. Still depressed but happy that death was almost obtainable. Then I went to rehab that I was miserable at. My suicide attempt was a relief in a way. It was like an inch closer to a peace of mind I've been yearning for endlessly. When I'm sad I just imagine my mind fading away into the darkness, next to a few other people. I remember the doctor bringing me some black charcoal looking drink and told me to drink it, and in between the refills I remember nodding out. The pills were starting to win and all I could think was I think I'm about to die. Am I finally going to be at peace?